If you trade or work with crypto, then you need to stay on your A game and maintain peak performance. In this episode of Castoshi, I talk to Hala Abdul, who helps people with mental health issues related to crypto. If you have traded crypto and experienced the highs and lows of this 24/7 market, you will probably understand how crypto can affect your mental and physical health. The signs that you may have a problem are constant price checking, FOMO, and feelings of guilt when you get it wrong. If you experience any of these, then this episode is for you. Hala explains how she helps people to become aware of their situation so that they can take the first steps to fixing things. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to Castoshi, and today we're talking to Hala Abdul. Hala Abdul helps people with mental health issues and specifically has had a lot of clients who work in crypto. Could you tell us a little bit about what you do, Hala?
Yeah, totally. Thanks for having me on. So my name's Hala. I'm a psychotherapist and I'm licensed in Canada. I think that I have the best job in the world, but I'm biased, so definitely don't take my word for it. What I do is I help people keep it real, basically, so that they're not getting screwed over by the markets. And I specifically work with people in crypto, right? So I help them keep it real so that they're not getting screwed over by the markets and so that they can stay on their A game, right? Because at the end of the day, I think if you're not speaking openly about something, it's hard to take responsibility for what's happening. And so the bottom line is you got to be strong, you got to be healthy in order to make good decisions in your life and in order to achieve some sort of peak performance. And that's where I come in.
Okay, so could I ask you for a quick example? For example, if someone's watching this and they say, that's for crazy people, I have no mental health issues. Could you give an example of where it could change someone's like what they do in crypto?
Yeah. I mean, look, to be honest, a lot of people don't need therapy. Chances are you're going to be okay with it. You're going to be okay without it. The way that I see it is if you have accessibility towards it, strategically speaking, it can be helpful to have someone facilitate or streamline the process for you to actually feel better and get better. Or to just stay okay, right? And so it's not necessarily that everyone needs it. A lot of people don't need it actually, but it can be a really helpful resource if you've got access to it. And so with my clients, I basically work with people in fintech on everything non-fintech. And so we work through things that I think anyone in the community could probably relate to, things like coin FOMO, excessive checking of the charts, feeling isolated, feeling burnt out. Um,
This is stuff
there you go. You know what I mean? Or
everyone
just
has
like
done, yeah.
totally, or just like a lot of web thinking. Like by web thinking, I mean, or by web specifically, I just mean like interrelated thoughts. So things like, I don't know, say the price goes up, you guilt yourself because you should have bought more. The price goes down, you guilt yourself because you should have you should have bought a little bit sooner. The price stays flat, you guilt yourself because this other coin mooned. You sell at a profit, you guilt yourself because the price kept going up, et cetera, et cetera. And so, if owning a coin is causing you to stare at the ceiling at night, it means you're doing something wrong. And this is where I would come in to hopefully help out.
Okay. Now I really do understand what you do. So, okay, so could we start at the beginning? Like, how did you get here? I mean, did you just feel sorry for everyone in crypto and you wanted to help them, or like, or were you born, wanting to do this? Like, how did it start?
Yeah, I definitely didn't feel bad for anyone. I think everyone in the community is so passionate and driven and hardworking. And for me, it's kind of my values that align with those values that draws me to this community, despite the fact that I'm the farthest thing from tech savvy, which is quite ironic. And I don't say that as an understatement. Like I'm genuinely pretty bad with tech. And so it's ironic that that I work with this population, but it was never linear. Like it kind of found me. I didn't find it. It started with the one person in crypto that I worked with, and then the next, and then the next, and then it just kind of became a thing. And for me, one thing that freaking makes my days when someone tells me that crypto or whatever line of work you're in actually helps scale your mental health. I think that's how it should be for everyone. Or if not, there are some people that just want to work and then they check out and then it's just a source of income, and that's cool. That's what makes you happy.
Could
For
you
other
rewind
folks,
there though? What do you mean by scale your mental health? That's not a term we
So
use in Europe so much.
yeah, totally. It just means staying on track and, doing whatever you can to stay on that path. And so, because whatever it is that you're doing in life, whether it's crypto or another field that you're in, life goes like things happen. Life happens, things go sideways. And so the idea is, how do we find ways to manage that and navigate that so that you are feeling strong, you're feeling healthy, you're feeling empowered, but also just kind of calling yourself out on your own bullshit. Like we all struggle with cognitive distortions, just kind of like thinking fallacies. No one can see things 100% objectively. That's the reality of it as human beings. And so if you can have someone help you lay out your mental landscape to just see things more clearly and better understand what you want and need, because we also change over time, that's what scaling your mental health could look like. Other days it could just look like damage control. So, but what I mean by that is, maybe you are feeling totally burnt out. And so scaling your mental health in that situation means going from feeling absolutely terrible to just feeling okay. And even that is a win. And sometimes that's the realistic goal to pursue.
Okay, so one day you're saying that someone who you sat next to said I'm guessing they were in a bad way, and you helped them, and then you helped another person, and it kind of went from there, and then it
Mhm.
kind of snowballed, and now you've learned about what everyone in crypto is doing, and you've seen some patterns which were, I assume, related to what your work was already in helping people. Is that correct?
Exactly. So it's kind of, that's totally it, right? Because as human beings, regardless of what our work is or what our lives look like, we experience the exact same feelings.
Hmm.
You could be an accountant, you could be a librarian, you could be a personal assistant, or you could be someone in crypto, and we have the same feelings, whether it's stress or joy or sadness or grief, or you know what I mean, or excitement. And so it's the same things, across the board. But the more I started to work with people in tech, the more I better understood kind of what comes with the territory. Just even something as simple as 24/7 markets, which that in itself comes with its own kind of bag of stressors and opportunities.
You mean checking the price all the time, like even in the middle of the night? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So
it's
can I ask you, have
addictive.
you ever bought or sold a crypto to kind of understand?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
But
have you so you understand what people are actually
yeah.
doing? Yeah.
I don't understand it as much as someone who's fully immersed in it. And I
Mm,
always like to make the disclaimer, I'm not someone who's in crypto, because I think when you
mm,
say I'm in crypto, it implies that you really like, your stuff, you're from the community, you like, that's your field. That's not me. But for me, it's the best way to describe it is that I dabble with crypto. I do own digital currencies. Right now, I can straight up tell you the markets are not nice, and my
mm,
investment portfolio is a sinking
mm.
ship. And that's another understatement. But at the end of the day, I think we're all in it together and hoping for the best.
Yeah, that's interesting. Actually, most people who say they're in crypto haven't got a clue. Seriously. I think
Mm.
it's like 1 or 2% of people even know what crypto is who say they're in crypto. So
Fair
so
enough. Fair enough.
don't ever think that
Yeah.
you don't like understand it, because
Yeah.
I'm very surprised at how many people are making big decisions in crypto and really don't understand, like, several tens of
Yeah.
millions or hundreds of millions of dollars, and they've got no idea what they're doing.
That's fair enough. I see where you're coming from, right? Because
Mm,
when was it that Bitcoin like really exploded? Around that time, it started to become more of like a, I don't know if trend is the right word, but it
mm,
became the cool thing,
mm,
whereas you've had people that were involved in it years and years and years
mm,
before. And it's not to say that anyone that joined the party later is any less qualified or anything, but
mm,
yes, I see that now it's more of a cool thing. And so people might be more prone to just having some association
mm.
in one form or another, whether or not it's accurate.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for me personally, like in 2014, I lost well over 1,000 bitcoins, pretty much everything.
Mm.
And
That hurts. Like just hearing it hurts.
it's funny because now it hurts other people more than it hurts me. I know people who lost less than 1/10 of that. Sometimes, like maybe like a 50th of that, and
Yeah.
they went bananas, and they couldn't take it.
Yeah.
And for me, I mean, I thought about it very philosophically. It's like, why did I do it? Why am I in this? But I know a lot of people who basically destroyed their lives after that, and they destroyed their mental health. And since then, and then I kind of was out of it for a few years. But since then, like recently, I've met a lot of people. I mean, I know multiple people who've sold assets or remortgaged their houses, and I know a lot of people who don't sleep at night, and this, and they're saying, and they know they shouldn't be doing it, but they cannot stop it, and
Yeah.
and a lot of people I understand a lot about how crypto works and about the trading, and I've had a lot of big losses, but um when people ask me for advice, like they say, what should I do? And even trying to sit down with a lot of people, they can't do it.
Mhm.
It's almost, I feel like a lot of people they treat it like a casino.
Yeah. Yeah. And
um
that's a good comparison in many different ways. Yeah, I see that.
so if someone is, for example, trading at home, or if they're a trader in a firm, what are the key things that you could say to them, that because a lot of these people, like a lot of people at work, will never admit they've got if they've got mental health issues, or they might just say, oh, I'm stressed.
Mhm.
What would you say to these people are the benefits of actually getting help? And maybe you could talk a bit about that, because these people, I think a lot of people want to go and say to their boss they need help, but they're scared, and the boss will say, I don't care, just make more money.
Yeah, one thing to keep in mind is that at least as of now, it's a pretty male dominated industry, right? And so that being said, generally speaking, for males, it's more taboo to express emotion or to show vulnerability. And so it's important to put that out there, and that, like, fair enough, I get that. But otherwise, the reality is, if you're struggling, you shouldn't have to struggle alone. And the truth is, a lot of it's like you're in it with everyone. Everyone has felt whatever it is that one said individual is experiencing in a given moment in time, including, incurring a huge loss, which is, it's a lot, because when you're suffering from a loss financially, for one thing, that can have a negative financial impact on you. And then that can also have a negative impact, sorry, on your self-esteem, on your self-worth, because now you're feeling like crap about yourself, and now you're kind of second guessing yourself. And then what happens is, behaviorally, that might cause you to overcompensate, where you're like, you know what, I'm gonna do this. You tunnel vision, you rabbit hole into whatever it is that you're looking into or researching, and then you start to buy a bunch, and that's where it's kind of like gambling. Like, it becomes it can be very easy to spiral. And I think it's important for people to look at that and acknowledge it, because no one is immune to it. So simply acknowledging, I'm a human, I'm imperfect, I am prone to spiraling. Any of us are, and if you're not in crypto, it'll be with something else, and so just recognizing what our imperfections are can put you in a position of power. It can help you understand, okay, this is one of the risks involved. And then with therapy, you can understand, what can I do to prevent that or manage it when it is happening? Because sometimes you can't help it, right?
Mm. Okay, so can you give me an example of maybe where someone recently has, like, either lost money or they've made bad decision, and what actually caused it? Maybe if it was something else in their life, or could you?
Yeah, look, that's like a philosophical question, and you're saying what caused it, right? Because the answer would be, who knows? You know what I mean? It could be a variety of things, but yeah, totally. I could think of a lot of people that I've worked with, where they have losses, and it's hard, especially if you're talking openly with other people about what you're doing or what you're excited about, and then it kind of feels like you fall flat on your face. Um, as far as what causes things, it's going to be different for everyone, because at the end of the day, when you're riddled with stress and anxiety, the parts of your brain that are responsible for optimal decision making go offline. They stop working. And so what happens is, if you 10x that over the long term, it really can kind of veer you away from being on your A game. And then what happens is, you're gonna, when you're under pressure, you're less likely to use logic, you're more likely to use emotion or make snap judgments, which can be costly, quite literally. Sometimes that will work in your favor if you're making a snap judgment where you just get a win. And that can be dangerous, because then you might do the whole, I knew it, my gut told me, I'm having a hot streak, this is great. And then you develop this kind of hot hand mentality, right? Or what might happen is, you're going to make a snap judgment and it's not going to go in your favor. And that's not so great either, because then you're incurring a loss, and then you might do that whole thing where you want to overcompensate and all of that. And I think a good solution to that is, one, take accountability. Like, instead of deflecting onto someone or something else where it's like, oh, it's the markets suck right now, or oh, this person told me, like, just take some accountability, recognize the hand that you had in it, and so that you can kind of take a step back and learn a little bit and then move forward. And in order to do that, you got to leave your ego at the door. Like, you need to be okay leaving your ego at the door, such that I think it's such a solid skill to know how to lose with grace. So if you can lose constructively, yeah.
I was going to say, so do I mean, I've heard this as well. Does a lot of people say that, do they blame other people or the market or everyone except themselves?
Yeah, that's like your whole like internal or external locus of control. Your internal locus of control is often if something works well, like you make a snap judgment, it works in your favor. You internalize it. Like, I knew it. My gut told me, you know what, when I was younger, I did the same thing. It worked. And then we do a little bit of confirmation bias. So we all get like that. You kind of hype yourself up. And then your external locus of control is when you externalize something. So say it doesn't go well, you suffer a bit of a hit. And then it's going to be like, oh, the markets are bad, man, or like, oh, this person told me to do it, but I knew I shouldn't have done it, and now it's external. And so even I think it's important to recognize a difference between an external and an internal locus of control, so that you can be a little bit more objective about it, just noticing or recognizing what are the things that are out of your control. And then more importantly, what are the things that, like, what's in your control, what's out of your control? Because the reality is that there's a ton that's out of your control. And so, and that's where losing with grace comes. Like, you got to recognize losses are, and even coin FOMO, it just comes with the territory. It's part of the game. You got to be okay with it, and you can't take it all personally. Instead, you could take a step back, ask some questions so that you're maintaining an upward learning curve, and move right on.
So do people get angry actually? Because I know, like, if I know people who, for example, who are down like 250,000 or $500,000, you know, these are not people in firms, but people who've like made personal commitments, and they get angry. And I normally don't talk about it with them because most of them are men. And I don't know, are they angry at themselves, or are they blaming someone else as well? Because I just kind of stay away from it because I know how hurtful it can be.
Yeah. And look, the truth is it hurts. Like, there's no way around that. I don't know that there's anything any of us could do or say to make it not hurt in the moment, at least. Like, it hurts, but the question is, what do you do with that hurt? Do you get defensive? Do you get reactive? Or can you just kind of recognize that, okay, this sucks. Like, it's going to have a bad impact on my life. It hurts. Kind of let that happen for a second, and then find ways to lose constructively, or to just be proactive, because there's always going to be losses, there's always going to be failures. That's fine. If you can learn how to navigate that, then you're really you're positioning yourself pretty well.
Okay, so number one, accountability, so they understand that they're responsible, but there might have been some things out of their control, like certain market crashes could be everyone is down.
Yeah.
And then two, what you're going to do about it.
Yeah, and I think even just with the accountability piece, it's so much easier said than done. And because it doesn't feel good for any of us. None of us want to see ourselves in a negative light, or kind of in a self-limiting light. But again, it's how the world works. It happens. And so just practicing some curiosity around maybe entertaining the idea that I might be accountable for some things is a really good step. It's a first step. But yeah, if you can get yourself to the point where you can fully recognize, okay, here's what I did and here's what else I could be doing, that's great. And even just the whole idea of leaving your ego at the door, because it's easier said than done, and yet it's very, very important. Something else you could do is even banish the word need from your dictionary in certain situations. And I see this happen a lot with coin FOMO, or even think of this with codependency with work. That's something that I see a lot, where it's because it really mimics an interpersonal relationship, where it's like, my work needs me and I need my work, and I don't know where I end and my work begins, and my work ends and I begin, and the lines start to get really blurred. And that can get really messy. And so if you can banish the word need from your dictionary at times, that can help. Because when you're telling yourself, I need this win, I need to make a profit, I need to work harder, or I need not work harder so much, but it's more so I need that win. It really skews your mental landscape. And then, you really make it your reality. And it's just kind of like shooting yourself in the foot.
I was actually just about to say the need word, because I was going to say, like if someone's got anger issues at themselves or the market or whatever, it might be because they've just spent their college fund, which was for their kids, on crypto, and that's gone to zero. And then, their wife has said, "Well, I told you you shouldn't do that." And they said, "Yeah, but I was trying to provide for you, the wife and the kids. We needed this." And suddenly it turns
Yeah.
into this like universal blame where the whole family is blamed, not, but the wife might be, the wife might be blaming the husband, or it might come across like that, but the husband might be thinking, I was doing it for the family, so now I'm getting blamed for trying to help the family or something.
Yeah, totally. And it's so you really, it starts to color your reality, right? Or even if it's just a conversation within yourself, like I need to make this win. That's a lot of pressure, because the whole idea is don't invest anything that you can't afford to lose. And hopefully, if that's what everyone's doing, or some people are doing, I would hope, you got to recognize, okay, I don't need this, I want it, and it would be wonderful to have it, but I don't need it. And that makes a big difference. Just kind of the self-talk that happens within your head, it's got a huge impact on how you feel, think, and even how you behave.
Okay, I like that. And what about firms like Coinbase? Do they use the professionals such as yourself to help with their activities? Because they must have a lot of employees who are like trading on a daily basis to buy and sell crypto for large clients.
I have no idea, but maybe you should shoot them an email and ask them, because that sounds like a good idea. I have no idea, but I would hope that everyone is at least having is being provided the option of accessibility to these kinds of services, just so that everyone has some, has a source of support, because also like burnout is real.
Yeah,
And that's I would say that's probably the main thing that I see across the board. And it's scary, because often you either don't know that it's happening to you, or you're in complete denial, which not that different, both things. And it's really damaging. It's got a lot of dangers to it mentally. When you're burnt out, it starts to become like information in, garbage out. And physically, it means your body is often in survival mode.
Yeah,
And it's
I've been burnt out on many occasions
yeah.
in the past. I'm like a recovering burnt out person in a way. And like I remember in one job about 5 years ago, and they did a survey, a mental health survey. They said we really care about it and everything. And this is going back to where the companies like Coinbase use these services. And what was amazing was over 50% of the people, of the
Yeah.
employees, had mental health issues.
Right.
But they did absolutely
Yeah.
nothing about it. They just did the survey, but just
Yeah.
to know it was incredible. So what about your customers? Like you said, it's mostly men. Like how long have you been helping them, and what sort of numbers of people have you helped? And are they what proportion men, women, and are they individual traders, or what sort of? Could you give us a breakdown of the sort of demographics?
Yeah, it's kind of a medley, honestly. Like it's a little bit of everything. So I've been working with people in tech probably specifically as of 2 years ago, probably, or 2 years now. As far as demographics, it's a lot of males. I do work with some females in crypto, but not a ton actually. But I am pumped to hopefully see more, because I know that I think there's more women that are actually involved in the space right now, which is pretty awesome. So it's a lot of males I work with, and then it's some of them are founders, because especially with startup founders, that tends to be the main kind of genre that I work with, because being a founder is not a walk in the park at all. But then just other people that work at tech startups, or at different work for different DAOs, things like that, or are part of different DAOs. But it's mostly startup founders, and it gets messy, right? Because when you're playing that role, your job is not as simple like work for 8 hours and then go offline, and that's it wouldn't be realistic to say, okay, do that so that you could take care of your mental health, and so you got to get crafty with it. And that's part of the work that I enjoy. It's kind of pulling up our sleeves and trying to figure out, how do we find a smart balance for you, and how do we make this work in a way that doesn't compromise your personal life, and it also doesn't compromise your work, because if both are important to you, which hopefully they are, then how do we find ways to uphold both?
I think because it's like it's 24/7, it does make a difference, because I once had to do a trade for a customer, and I lost I lost like six figures for them.
Yeah.
But when we identified the trade, like, we did everything by the book, and we studied it properly, we did the research, and then when it came time to execute the trade,
Mhm.
we found out that well, a lot of stuff in crypto is so technical, it just doesn't work still. And so something that we thought would take like 5 minutes, the trade,
Mm.
ended up taking nearly 2 days. It got stuck. So
Wow.
we basically, instead of like 5 or 10 timesing the investment, we lost six figures.
Ouch.
And and it was difficult, because
Yeah.
we didn't know, like I had to try and explain, like they said, well, we figured all of this out, this was supposed to be like, what, this was, everything was planned, and yet they lost this money, and they were just like, well, this isn't for us anymore. And but
Mm.
mentally, I was like, I was in a bad place for a couple of days, because I thought, okay, this is my fault, I should have known this. But then I did actually do a good thing. I think I thought, okay, this is something to prevent it. I would have had another year's like experience or something.
Mm.
And
Totally. Just recognizing that is so powerful,
yeah,
you
but
know,
it
and
was just something which was out of our control. Yeah.
yeah. And actually, to answer one of your earlier questions where you were asking what causes it,
Mm,
so in that example, yeah, it sounds like it was kind of a technical thing,
mm,
where you couldn't have done it any differently in the moment, but moving forward, you've learned, okay, here are the shortcomings of the system, or whatever it is, of whatever software you're using, or whatever it is, right?
mm,
And that's one where, to a certain extent, there was a bunch that's in your control that you can change moving forward. While it happened, you didn't know otherwise, and so you actually did the best that you could, and in that moment, the best that you could meant a loss, and that happens. But if you can lose with grace, just kind of take a step back, recognize that it hurts, figure out what went wrong, what you could have done differently, and then take that forward and move on, then that's the way to go. But it's hard, right? Because also other people are involved, other people's money is involved, and your credibility, your reputation. And then that's often what I hear people talking about. And so it's a tough thing to navigate, but it is manageable.
mm, mm. Yeah, I mean, in that case, I did take accountability for it. So I kept my reputation, I think. And I did do an investigation as to what went wrong. And I found out I could have actually limited the losses to have lost like 5% of what I lost. But
Right.
sometimes you don't, like when you're doing these things in crypto, like you might say, there's a chance to buy a token, and you
Yeah.
can see that, someone else is going to, it's going to go up for, it could be solid reasons, like there's just demand for it. But to execute it, there's just, because there's so many different technical things that have to be done, and you don't know until you've tried them many times what the gotchas
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
because I did that analysis, like it wasn't like I just licked my finger and said, okay, let's just guess, because then I would have been I would have probably been in like legal trouble. But I didn't.
Yeah.
Everything was done like properly by the book, and to
Yeah.
the best of my ability. Like I wasn't just trying to like just just make a quick buck on something I thought some suckers were going to buy. There was like valid reasons I thought people were going to buy it, and I failed on what I thought was a valid reason, and they thought so too in the end.
Yeah. And here's the cool thing, that thing that went wrong, or that mistake, you will never make it again in your life.
Oh, I
Like,
don't
you
know
know what
about
I mean?
that. I don't know,
Ah,
because that's I think that's one of the things with a lot of the crypto world I see is it's kind of like you've probably worked with a lot of people in financing as well, and when you're in like venture capital, for example, losses are expected, and I think this is something a lot of people that I've seen in crypto, but they don't understand yet, because they may invest in like 10 or 20 coins, but they're expecting all of them to go up, and
Mhm.
they don't realize that some of them are going to go down. And it's the same with executing trades, for example. Some of those trades will have technical problems. It's just the way the system
Yeah.
works, and there's
Yeah.
something called liquidity pools and things like that. And it's very hard to execute every trade perfectly. And if you're in a rush, it's very easy to make a mistake as well.
Yes. And
Even if
yes.
you know it well and you're very bright, there's just so many steps to doing something sometimes. Um,
Totally. Yeah. No, you're right. And it is impossible to execute perfectly every time, and so if you can come to terms with the fact that there always will be some missed opportunities,
mm,
it comes with the territory. It's just how it works. And I'm not saying this to kind of send the message of like, don't try or kind of sit back and do nothing. No, by all
mm,
means, stay proactive, while also recognizing that there always will be missed opportunities. It's just how it works. Like even right now, as you and I are talking, we could probably be buying some coin that's gonna like 10x over the next
mm,
little bit, but we're not, because we're doing
mm,
this right now. And so the reality is that there always will be some missed opportunities. And
mm,
so you got to work with what with what you've got, and just kind of accept the facts, accept what's out of
mm.
your control, and also focus on what's in your control.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, one of the people who taught me trading, like, because of the psychology of it, one thing that they did for me, which I didn't understand at the time, but which did me well, was they put $10,000 in an account, and they told me I had to lose it,
Oh,
and that changed everything for me, because I said, no, 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 I have to make money, I have to make money. And they said to me, they
yeah.
said, look, you might think $10,000 is a lot, because to me it's a lot of money, but but they said, but if you can't take the psychology of losing $10,000, then you're going to lose me a lot more in the future.
Oh,
So
that's pretty powerful. I've
yeah,
never heard of that before. That's powerful.
so I actually did, I lost most of it.
How
And
how what did you do to lose it?
well, okay, so I would have lost it anyway, even if I wasn't trying to lose it, yeah. But the thing is, in my head I said, I'm going to show him. So I tried double hard to I thought, I'm going to turn this 10,000 into $100,000, maybe a million. And I had this grand plan. And that $10,000, I think I managed, I can't remember now if it was $900 or $1,100 or something was left at the end of it. Um, and when that went down to almost zero, I was I felt ashamed,
Yeah.
but um, but I went back to them and I said, "Oh, I lost it, but I thought I'd failed the test." I said, "I didn't. I thought I hadn't lost it in the way that they wanted me to." And they said, "No, you passed the test."
Yeah, and it's interesting hearing you kind of talk about your process there, right? Because when you're saying, you were thinking to yourself, I'm going to show them, that just kind of it shows that it is personal for everyone. Because when you're saying I'm going to show them, it's kind of proving your worth, proving your self-worth and what you can do. And then even at the end, when you say you were feeling shame, because the feeling of shame is it's the way that you feel about yourself. Shame is always about the self. And so you felt the shame because probably you didn't like who you were in that moment. You didn't like what was happening and how that reflected on you. And so it is personal, and that can really skew our behavior, where at that point for you, maybe it wasn't even fully about the money, but rather it was about you and showing them what you can do and feeling good about yourself as well. And, rubbing your ego in all the places that
Mm.
it wants to be touched. And so that's how it works. That's a cool lesson. So I guess you must have learned a thing or two.
Oh yeah, I learned a lot from that. I mean, I'm not in the market anymore, but
Yeah.
if I hadn't done that, I think I would have lost a lot more customer money and my own money. I think so. Um, so can I ask you, where do you, well, actually, about the state we're in now, with the markets down so much, do you think that a certain type of person is attracted to crypto, or do you think crypto has caused a lot of mental health issues because it's this
Mm,
24/7 market?
yeah. It's a big question. That's a pretty big question. And I wish that I had a simple answer for you, but I don't. But I have a kind of multi-layered answer. So I find I will say I find that mental health stressors tend to increase more so in a bull market than a bear market, because it's more volatile. Things are moving, everything's up and down, and it's just go, go, go. Whereas in a bear market, especially for someone who has a plan, which is to just kind of, sit back and hold on, it tends to be, I think, in some ways less stressful, because especially for folks who can recognize you just got to wait it out. You know what I mean? But what causes the stress? I think there's so many different ways to tackle that. It's what I see is a lot of people that are, in the field, they share a lot of values like the passion, the drive, the hard work, the hustle, and even the sense of community. I find a lot of people are there to build each other up, or at least from what I see, it's what causes what. It's so cyclical that, maybe some of us are predisposed to really spiraling and rabbit holing. Whereas others of us who may have had certain life experiences, like even your whole 10K loss thing, depending on your experiences, you might be better positioned to actually lose with grace, and more so it's not so much that the crypto will cause the stress. But I think a simple way of answering your question as I'm thinking out loud is it just comes down to each person's unique relationship to crypto. For some people, crypto is their sole source of financial income. For other people, it's their sole source of self-worth. For other people, or for most of us, it's going to be a mix of both. And so it really comes down to your unique relationship, and also how you navigate life. Like, are you defensive or are you open? Can you manage your stress, or do you tend to, is your response to stress, let me overcompensate and let me rabbit hole? And so it's pretty multi-dimensional. And this is why I do the work that I do. I like to detangle things. I like to work with messes. I like to work with high conflict things, and I like to also get everyone's ducks in a row.
Okay, I saw from that you've really helped some people like change their lives from the stuff I've read from your website. Could you just tell the audience how you've helped, like how it's actually changed? Like, you don't have, of course, I know you can't say, I know I'm always asking for specifics, and I know you can't give details of names, but if you mix it up a bit, could you just tell us how you've changed people's lives? Because people can relate to that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I could think of a bunch. I could think of someone who's got a family, who's got, say, a young kid, for instance, and they're, a long-term partnership. And over time, what happens is you work around the clock, you reach the point of exhaustion, you hit the 2x quicker than you thought you would, and now you're pumped and you raise the bar, and then you rabbit hole into this little, hole that you can't get out of. And what happens is that's where you start to pay, like, it comes with a psychological price tag. Right? Because then your relationship suffers. You're not so much a part of your kid's life, you're not emotionally available in the way that you would like to be, and in the way that your kid deserves. You're more isolated. You're not going out as much, or say that you are going out, but you're mentally checked out. You're just not there. And so, working with people like that, we try to really lay out the mental landscape and see what's happening. What are the patterns? Where are you getting stuck? Where are you accountable? And often, honestly, the solutions are pretty simple. The harder part is it's the emotional work. It's taking accountability. It's looking at, what's really going on. And then the easier part is doing things like drawing boundaries with yourself, because at the end of the day, you don't want to lose perspective. And it is so easy to lose perspective. And so I've seen it where if someone is open and willing to actually making a change, and that's a conversation I have with my clients too. It's, are you here to vent it out, which I can support, or are you here because you actually want to make some change? Because we all have different levels of change that we're in. And so if someone is able and willing to make some change, then it's not that hard. You draw some boundaries with yourself. Maybe you draw some boundaries with others. Maybe you delegate more. Maybe you outsource more. Maybe you take something off your plate so that you can actually focus on the work stuff that matters to you, and so that you can carve out space for your family. And so then, you do the emotional work, and then you do the behavioral stuff, which is drawing boundaries and making concrete changes in your life.
And so does it actually, are you saying that some of the people, they just want to vent, but are you saying that, and some of the people want to vent and get help?
Yeah, so
that's kind of strange to me that some people don't want the help as well.
Yeah, because it's for it's not even that someone will openly come and say I want to vent but I don't want to change, but that tends to be more of a full dialogue that will eventually lead us to that, because for a lot of us it's like I would like to see change but I'm not willing to put in the work, and so you might be unsatisfied with whatever suggestions are coming your way because it requires you kind of flexing that muscle and you don't want to, and so sometimes that's going to be right. That's part of the work. It's just calling the person out and saying, well, here's what's going on. And, for me, the way that I see it is at least you should be making informed decisions about whatever you're doing in your life, including maybe recognizing I don't want to make some changes right now. I kind of want to keep rabbit holing, because at least you're being realistic, and maybe hopefully if and when the day comes that you actually want to make some changes, then you get to do it. Right.
Oh yeah, okay, I understand this. Yeah, I mean, I never really started to get any help until about 2015 with any issues I had, and when I did get help, of course, everyone wants a quick fix,
Yeah.
but it takes time to actually be self-aware and then be aware enough that you start to see it and then do little actions that actually help. And so when because I was always like, no, this is for those people, other people need it, not me, to get self-help. Everyone in Hollywood has a shrink, but I don't need that sort of thing. That's how I'd see it, and how a lot of people see it, I think. But once you actually make changes and stand back from yourself and become self-aware, I agree that then it can help a lot. And it changed my life around, to be honest. Being self-aware, I got out of a very bad situation, and it helped me a lot. So I have a lot of time for people who are trying to help other people's mental health in not just crypto, but in other fields as well, because those issues might go all the way back till childhood. So it's not something you can just fix like that in one day. Okay, sorry, go on.
That's cool though, the fact that you've managed to kind of maybe have the difficult conversations with someone else and with yourself probably, and to make some changes in your life. And like that's what it's all about, because that also hopefully helps you find a smart balance in your life where you can actually focus on the work that you love, but also focus on the things outside of the work that matter to you, whether it's family, whether it's social connections, whether it's physical health, whatever it is. Maybe it's playing the piano, whatever.
Actually, it's all of those things, including playing the piano, which I'm learning now. But
do you actually play the piano?
Yeah, I'm learning it now. So
look at that. I'm so intuitive. I'm that good. I knew
you're good. Yeah, you are. So if someone wants to use your services, do you teach? Is it just individuals, or do you do groups as well? How does it work? If someone's interested to engage your services.
Yeah. You could just reach out online through my website. I work primarily with individuals, and I think down the line I'm itching to start working with some groups, and so I'll probably get into that down the line. And outside of crypto, I actually work with couples as well, primarily high conflict couples, and so that's the work that I do. But I could be found on my website directly, and I'm always happy to get a conversation started and do what I can.
Oh, actually, that's very interesting about the couples, because I know a lot of startup founders get like you said earlier about someone, they might be thinking about their day job when they're with the family, and that can affect the relationship in a very negative way. So I've heard of a lot of startup founders using couples therapy.
It does. And it's actually quite heartbreaking for some people where it ends up in divorce or separation, depending on what the setup is. It's heartbreaking because then, it hurts for everyone, including if there's any kids involved, and if not, just for both people involved. And then it's kind of like if that was a game, everyone's a loser. No one's winning, no one's happy, and it sucks. And so it's always best to try to be proactive and at least try to work things out before deciding to tap out.
Okay. One more thing before we close off is, firstly, do you own any Bitcoin or Ethereum?
I do.
Okay.
I've
won't
never been
ask you.
asked that before though, so that kind of caught me off
I
guard.
won't ask you if it's self-hosted or on an exchange. I won't ask you that. Where do you think like the industry is going in the next few years? Like, do you think that like crypto is going to be play a a big part of the future, or do you think people are just burnt out with the whole thing and it's going to go away, or what's your
Yeah.
feeling?
You know what? Because I don't have enough information on it to like actually have an informed opinion. I'm gonna hit you with another I don't know, but what I will say is that I just think it's such a cool community.
Mm,
The fact, just the values, like the fact that everyone really is so passionate, and even the whole decentralization is so beautiful.
mm,
And so for the sake of the values that, that crypto or fintech in general embodies, I certainly hope that it continues to go where we're all hoping it does go. And I mean, I hope that it is the future, or that at least one way or another that, this can continue to be a community of some sort that goes on, and all of that. And
okay.
so I don't know, but I hope.
Okay, so
That's my
you
answer.
you like the
Yeah.
community.
I love it.
Okay. Okay, and before we close off, just for the audio listeners, could you spell out your website name?
Yep. So it's just Hala, HALA, therapy.com. And I trust that you might know how to spell therapy, so I won't do that for you.
Okay, great. Okay, it's been great to talk to you today. Thank you very much for
Yeah.
your time.
Thanks so much for having me on. I had a great time.